Ever had a conversation where you made a bold statement, then paused, tilted your head, and said, "On second thought"? Welcome to On Second Thought with Erick, Richie, and Bish Bates, where hot takes meet humble pivots, where leadership, life, and current events collide, and where it's perfectly fine to change your mind, out loud. Whether it's marriage, manhood, or the madness in the media, Erick and Bish bring humor, heart, and a little healthy debate, because wisdom lives on the other side of, "Wait, let me rethink that." This is On Second Thought. Press play and be ready to pause.
All right, what's up, man?
Not much. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I see you got your Dallas Cowboys shirt on. Does that mean you're hopeful?
Well, they're playing the Cardinals tomorrow, so yeah, I think it'll be okay for them.
Yeah.
But I thought they were going to beat the Panthers, and I was wrong about that. So, you're always hopeful.
Yeah. Well, they still are they're still crappy, but but they're crappier teams. That's the plus, right? They're crappier
The
teams.
Ravens for sure. Yeah, the Ravens for sure.
Well,
I would say they're at least bottom of their division. That's shocking, I think, for everybody. So
yeah, but Lamar has been out for half the season up to this point, and he's got when he's in, he does a pretty good job. So I think there is reason for hope. That's what I will say. We've won 2 games in a row, so I've gotten off of the pessimistic bandwagon, and I'm back a little bit on the maybe aren't as bad as we look like we are. Now, don't get me wrong, we didn't beat any world beaters, right? We didn't beat any world beaters, but we at least didn't lose to them, and so I mean, that's a little bit better. That's all I'll say. It's a little bit better. So
yeah, I mean, you were so upset you left town for 2 weeks, So yeah.
I did. That was why I left. Yes, was specifically because of the Ravens. I was so disappointed. I was so disappointed. By the way, before we get started, what do you got in your cup, buddy?
I just got a little vanilla Kahlua with some vodka. How about yourself?
Oh, so we're going to sweet trains because you get on me for the sweet stuff, and now you're taking a sweet train today. So
for the coffee, just for the coffee,
whatever,
flavor.
Vanilla and whatever, man. I have
Okay.
I have a whiskey. Okay, where is it? There's a whiskey sour. That's right.
Okay, more sour than whiskey, I'm sure. So I'm sure.
Actually, no.
Yeah. Okay.
No, not more sour than whiskey, but
Okay.
it's still sufficiently sweet.
Yeah, I did that in college. I remember that was a nice drink. So that amaretto sour also. Talk about a sweet drink. Dang, that was.
Well, we talked
tough,
about that.
so.
Amaretto is definitely a sweet one, but I've only done that once. I've only done an amaretto sour once, but it's amaretto something. But yeah, but amaretto is definitely sweet. But I'll take it. So
nice. So
all
how
right,
you been
man.
doing, man? What's been going on?
I've been good, man. I know we've been off for 2 weeks, and in this 2 weeks, I was traveled for work, work-ish, like for business, I would say, more than work. And went to Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm a coach for the Society of Hospital Medicine, one of their leadership capstone programs, and so I'm a pod advisor and coach for them, and so I do that every year. And so this year it was in Scottsdale, Arizona, at a really nice place, which I enjoy, the JW Marriott. I've only been to like four JW Marriotts, but they're all really, really nice. They're all places that, had it not been for the thing I was going for, I probably would not have sprung the money, otherwise. But nice spots. And then after that, I think more importantly was so Terica went with me. She goes with me a lot of times when I go to these things. But after that, we had planned a trip to go see Kendall out in California, and so
Your son in California.
My son
That's
Kendall,
nice.
yeah. So 5 days out there visiting him, and then my brother and his family came, and so he has a young son who I met I met my nephew for the first time, and then my sister came. So Elo and Ariel, and then Elo's wife Sophia, and so their son Wolfgang. So anyway, so just really honestly, we just rented a house, Airbnb a house, and spent a lot of time there. Did a little bit of sightseeing, but mostly we were just there spending family time, just enjoying each other, getting time to spend. And Kendall stayed over there most of the time we were there, so it was honestly really, really good time. And then came back, and I'm back to the grind, back to the daily grind. So what have you been up to?
I've never done an Airbnb, and I'm one of those people that I'm opposed to Airbnb. If I can go to a hotel, I will always do a hotel first. And my wife is big on Airbnb, and I know you've done it a number of times. But for me, it just feels like not a hotel and not a vacation. You're just taking your home to another location, and you still got to prepare your meals, and it just feels less relaxing. I don't know. Mentally, that's just where I'm at as
Dude,
well. So
that is oddness, right? So hold on. So let's back up for a second. So
yeah,
if you're going on a if you're going on a vacation and you Airbnb, right? It sounds like you're suggesting you have to be the one to cook. If you're at a hotel, you would eat out or you would order something. Same with the Airbnb. You can eat out or order something, but you have the option, by the way, to eat in. And the plus of the Airbnb is that you have much more flexibility for gathering, right? So if you're going to be with people that are not sleeping in the same room as you, right? Because a hotel's sleeping in the room as you. So if you're going to be with people who are not sleeping in the same room with you, there's much more gathering opportunities in an Airbnb where you can just be just the however many of you there are versus having to go to the lobby or go to, I don't know, wherever you would go at a hotel. If you're at a resort, that's a little different because sometimes they have a bunch of little places you can sort of hang out at. But to me, it's actually more comfortable, right? Because here's the thing I think about. In a typical hotel room, you don't have like a living room with a couch and a sofa and a coffee table where you can just chill, right? You're sitting at your desk, the little desk they have in there. Depends on, I don't know what kind
yeah,
of hotel rooms you get, right?
yeah. You're
Maybe you get
right.
better
Yeah.
hotel rooms than me, or you're sitting on the bed. Neither one of those are relaxing for me. And if I'm sleeping in the bed's relaxing, but if I'm trying to be up, sitting on bed's not relaxing. But sitting on a couch and chilling, that sort of thing, being able to walk to the kitchen, grab a drink out of the fridge, what I'm saying? All that sort of stuff is stuff you can't really do.
You're not paranoid about all the cameras everywhere, and it feels like someone's watching you and checking your stuff out or whatever.
So they could be like that's the truth of the matter. They could be, and
Right. I mean,
the
I
only
hear
time
that
I'm
so much. Yeah,
well, the
I
only
hear
time
that so
I'm
much.
worried about it though is in the bedroom, right? If I'm not doing anything in the living room or in the wherever that I'm worried about, and honestly, I assume that there might be cameras there because I
Yeah.
assume that they want to somehow protect their property. The two places I assume there aren't cameras are the bedrooms and the bathrooms, right? So if there are cameras any other place, I wouldn't like it as an invasion of my privacy. But I go in assuming I'm not going to do anything that if they saw me doing on camera in their property, they wouldn't be okay with because I try to treat other people's property like my own, right? And I even
Yeah.
tell them when I rent, I was like, listen, I'm going to treat this like my own place, right? I'm going to leave it cleaner than I got it. And I'm going to make sure that we take care of it. But again, so think about this for a second. So we went there, we had I'm gonna miss the count, but so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 people were there, right? Including Kendall and a dog. And there was supposed to be 2 dogs there, but at least one dog with potentially 2 dogs. So all of those staying under one roof, right? Kendall had his own little bonus room. They turned the garage into a bonus room. So Kendall was in there. He had a projector, he had a desk, he had a one of those sectional sofas and a bed, all in that spot, right? My sister had her own room. My brother and his wife had their own room with 2 beds in it. We had the master with our own bathroom and our own balcony. And then we all obviously had the living room, the dining room, and the kitchen where we spent most of our time sort of, gathering and talking. We played a bunch of video games because they're a bunch of gamers. So we played a bunch of we played a bunch of video games
Hey,
together. And then we carved pumpkins. So we bought pumpkins because it was Wolfgang's second Halloween, and Wolfgang, my nephew. So it was his second Halloween, and so they all bought pumpkins. By the way, I carved it like reluctantly. I had to get talked into it. I was the last one to do it. I'm not artistic.
yeah.
I didn't
I'm
want to do
not
it,
one of those. Yeah.
but I got guilted into it, so I did it. But anyway, we all carved pumpkins, right? We hung out on the deck. We smoked cigars. We listened to music. We played board games outside at the outside table and inside at the inside table. There was a place in the back for the dog to go use their business because they had a backyard, right? All of those things are things that you couldn't get in a hotel, right? And so to me, it's way more convenient. In the same way that I'm more likely to rent an Uber than I am to rent a cab. It's just more convenient to me. It's on my phone. It's easy. You can see the ratings of the people, right? All that sort of stuff. So it's a little easier. So
I do agree with that, which reminds me, I wanted to ask you about your experience with the automated vehicle you were in.
oh
I've
yeah,
never talked to someone that actually did this before, and I think when you were in Arizona, you were waiting too long for some Uber or something?
Yeah, we got to the airport when we flew in on Sunday, and they said it said the Uber was going to be 5 minutes when I ordered it, and then by the time it like you actually order it, you sort of check. I usually check it when I'm at the baggage claim or whatever. And when I went to actually order it at the curb, it said it was going to be 30 minutes, and I was like, "F that," right? So but I kept seeing these Waymos, right? They're called Waymos, at least out there. They're these autonomous driverless vehicles. And I kept seeing them coming up, just coming up, picking people up and leaving. So I was like, let me try that, see how long it's going to take a Waymo. I was a little, scared. Scared's a strong word, but I was a little hesitant. And so I downloaded the app, did all the registration stuff you had to do. It only took a couple of minutes. And then I ordered a Waymo. And within like 2 or 3 minutes, a Waymo showed up. And it showed up and it has your initials at the top. So you know it's your Waymo. So you don't have
Really?
to just
Okay.
match. So there's a little sort of light, little screen in a little bulb on top, right? And so it tells you something else, but it also gives your initials there, so it's easier to know that it's your car versus trying to do the quick look at the tag that you often have to do because they all look the same, by the way.
Yeah.
And so you get there. I mean, it pulls up, the doors unlock when you get there, and you can see it's like the Teslas have the handles that come out. Either way, these are handles that pop out, right? So you can see that it is unlocked, and as soon as you open the first door, it's like, welcome, Bashara, and it starts talking to you. And it knew it was my first drive with in a Waymo. And so it was a little weird to be sitting in the car that was moving with no driver in the drive. Like I was just like, I don't know about this. Right. I even took a video and posted it and I don't post a ton on social media, but I actually posted a video on social media, just saying, look, if we disappear, I know that the last place we were was in the Waymo, right? And so we posted, and it was actually fine. It drove cautiously. It was probably a little more cautious than a typical driver. So times when you would go, you could have taken that. It doesn't often, do those sort of things. So it's pretty cautious. I never felt unsafe. I felt unsure, right? Because it was a driverless vehicle, but I never actually felt unsafe. It never did anything that made me go, oh, I don't know about that, right? So it's actually pretty good. So much so that on the way back, I ordered another Waymo to go back to the hotel. I mean, back to the airport. And by halfway through that second ride, I was like, when can I just buy one of these jokers? Because I would never drive again, right? I would love to have one that is just sitting there. You get in the back seat, like you got your own personal driver, and it takes you where you need to go, right? I wouldn't sweat going to work every day, all that sort of stuff, because I'd be just sitting in my own vehicle doing my own thing. And one of the things I did like about it was the second time we got in it. And I did do it again in California, by the way. I couldn't do it from the airport because the airport has some sort of weird lockdown where Ubers and Waymos and stuff couldn't go. But when you get back in, it remembers who you are, right? And it remembers your choices. It remembers your temperature choices. It remembers your music choices. So I connected my Spotify to it. So every time I got back in the second and third time, it started playing from my Spotify playlist immediately, right? So it was kind of cool. I kind of liked it, and it was. I'm honestly, I'm just like, I might get. I'd rather have that than my own car at this point.
Wouldn't that be the real future? Not flying cars, but the fact that if we all had a vehicle like that, like the accidents would just go away. Like the accidents are the idiots who are on the road that are on the left lane and decide they need to jump over 3 lanes and turn right because they were in the wrong spot.
Yes, exactly. Like the person who's going
yeah.
into from the express lane to the local lane, trying to get over to the light. Right, that person that we talked about a couple of episodes back. Yes,
right.
I'm with you.
Yeah, so I think that's the future, right? Like that should be it. Like we get in more autonomous car, take the human element out of it, and we plan our times a little bit better because we know the cars are going to be smarter. They're going to give each other more space. They're going to make the decisions better to get in the right lane that they need to be in advance, knowing they're going to turn right versus being in the center and then jumping over and cutting someone off. I think the human element is the problem.
Agreed.
And I think the Waymo and vehicles, Waymo, whatever.
I'm just saying it.
I think that's the future. Take your hands off the wheel. Tell it where you want to go and just go there, And if you want to stop at 7-Eleven on the way,
it can do that.
Get a coffee, get a 7-Eleven. Yeah. So
now here's the only thing I will say. So some of the limitations that I saw with the Waymo is it can't go everywhere. Okay, it has predetermined where it can go. And I'm not 100% sure why. Maybe because it's just a little less hard to navigate. So, for example, at our resort, the main circle where you drop off, where everybody sort of drops off, they have the concierge there, they have the bellman taking your luggage and all that sort of stuff. It won't go there. And I'm guessing it's because there's too many people and it's just an unpredictable pattern there. So it would take you like 100 feet past the circle or 100 feet before the circle, but it wouldn't turn into the circle and it wouldn't stop in front of the entrance of the circle, right? So there are some limitations there that my guess is it has to sort of figure those things out to know what it can and cannot do. And that probably has to be mapped out pretty aggressively. So my guess is, this is my guess, I don't know, but a Waymo just can't go somewhere that hasn't been pre-mapped out by the Waymo system, right? And predetermined by the Waymo system, which means now everything everywhere would have to be mapped out for you to go. Now, that's one. The other thing is, if they keep it so that, because right now, if you really, it was really autonomous, they wouldn't need a steering wheel and a driver and pedals and all that sort of stuff. It would just go. So technically, you could fit 5 people in there, right? 2 people in the front seat, 3 people in the back seat, right? But I wonder if if they keep that driver's seat there, right? The steering wheel and the wheels, you can deactivate it and go places that maybe the Waymo isn't designed to go. If you're in a place where it can go most of the places, but not every place, then you can go, okay, well, at some point I might have to, I got to go into this town that it hasn't been mapped yet or something like that. And now I can just drive it myself. But it does, I think, need to be mapped somehow because it couldn't go everywhere. It was sometimes restricted on what it could do.
Don't you think that it could sync eventually to like Waze or Google? I mean,
it
if
should,
they can get us there, yeah.
But those, okay, so there's a difference though. Think about it. So the Google and Waze, what they're doing is determining the streets they can go down. Waymo is determining how is the right lane? Is there parking in the right lane or is there not parking in the right lane? Can I drive down that lane? Where are the pedestrian crossings at, right? So Waymo is determining a whole lot more detailed stuff in order to be safe than I think that Google and Waze are. Google and Waze are just saying, is it a street you can drive on, go? Because I know Google and Waze have taken me on streets. I'm like, I should not be on the street. This is somebody's little private road that technically is a street, but you're not really supposed to be on it, right? But it doesn't differentiate between those two things. So I think that it has to do its Waymo thing in order to be able to determine it. But I'll be honest, I would trade in a regular car for Waymo. Again, assuming I can then hop in and go, and also depending on how much it costs, right? Because I'm guessing it's not cheap. They're all Jaguars, at least where I in LA and Arizona. At least the ones I saw, they were all Jaguars. They were all Jaguar SUVs essentially. And so my guess is that's not cheap, right? And think of a Jaguar SUV starting, and then you add all that stuff onto it, right? And then, so my guess is that's probably a pretty expensive vehicle. I mean, if I think about just the idea of the Tesla, right? And when you go from the regular Tesla to the autonomous driving Tesla, I think that's like a $10,000 or $20,000 upgrade.
Well, I mean, they do add-ons, right? Like,
right,
if you want this to work, add on this and
so
download this onto the app or whatever. But,
so Waymo's upgrades are probably so much that's probably a $40,000, maybe $50,000 upgrade to go from a Jaguar. They'll go from a Jaguar to a Waymo Jaguar, right? That's my guess. And so I'm guessing that's, I haven't looked it up, but my guess is that's probably $120,000 vehicle, something like that.
But was it more expensive than the Uber itself?
Cheaper.
It was cheaper. So
cheaper than Uber.
You're in a better vehicle. It showed up sooner. And it's cheaper.
Yeah, and that's the problem with Ubers versus taxis, right? Because that's why I do Ubers versus taxis, because they're cheaper, they're better, you're safer, right. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you just do it, right? The thing about one of the things I like about Ubers over taxis, by the way, I know this wasn't the nature of the conversation, but Uber over taxis is the idea of you can see like reviews. People will tell you if they're a good driver, if they're not a good driver, but also I recognize that how I would treat my personal car, especially my personal car that I'm now using to put other people in, I'm going to treat it much better than I would presume the average taxi driver treats a taxi. Like, I don't know that they're spending time in that taxi by themselves, when they're not driving, making sure it's clean. I think you're maximizing the amount of time you can make that a taxi. So it's probably running 24 hours a day, 2 shifts of 12, that sort of thing. Whereas Uber driver, they're taking that joker home. They're cleaning it. They're doing all that. So they have to deal with it every day. Like, that's their personal vehicle. And so there's probably a little bit more pride there than their work vehicle. It's like a personal vehicle versus a work vehicle. So
to your point about the ratings, I can't tell you how many times I went to Vegas for business or personal, and I took a taxi and I couldn't get them to turn on the damn air conditioning.
Because they don't care.
With the windows open. But when I'm in an Uber and I said, "Hey, can we crank that up a little bit?" Oh, absolutely, sir. Where would you like
Immediately.
to be?
Because
Absolutely.
they
I've been
know it
standing
matters.
outside waiting. It's hot. It's Arizona, and they're just used to the heat or something. I don't know what's going on in Vegas. Bless you. But it irritates the crap out of me taking those taxis, and you're just having that hot air microwave your face. And I asked for the air conditioning, and they just won't turn it on because why do they? They're a taxi. They don't need a.
Right. They need to, they want to save the gas. They want to save
Sure.
the gas, and
Yeah.
you're never going to get in their car again. So
Yeah.
they have no reason. But
No.
that's why I like it. So at some
Yeah.
point, here's my guess. At some point, because I know that taxis have started sort of fighting back against like the access that Ubers have.
The unions of them.
Yeah, and so at some point they're gonna have to change the war that they're fighting, right? People don't choose Ubers because well, I don't. I choose. I guess people choose Ubers because it's reliable. The vehicles are better. It's cleaner. And it's
There's
less expensive.
accountability. I think that's the accountability.
And there's
thing.
accountability. And so they're gonna have to do things like allow you to be able to see what their rating is before you take them, right? Allow you to rate them, right? They're gonna have to start doing those sorts of things. Be a little less expensive, right? They're gonna have to start figuring those things out because otherwise, they're gonna become extinct because nobody's gonna do it, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And part of the plus, I think, of Ubers is that many Uber drivers are not full-time Uber drivers. A lot of them are, but not everyone is, right?
Yeah.
And so they're not doing it in such a way that I have to make X amount of money, right? I have to feed my family. They're, I need extra money. So it becomes a little less, the intensity of how much money they have to make is a little bit less. And it's not all the layers, right? Think of all the layers of a taxi. You have the person that owns the vehicle. You have the taxi company itself. You have the driver. Sometimes you have a couple of drivers that own that car. Like all of those layers, and everybody's got to make some money. Uber's got to make some money, and the driver and the car have to make money. It's all the same person, right? So it's a little fewer layers. So, and I'm much more likely, by the way, to tip an Uber driver than I am to tip a taxi driver because I think part of it, and it's probably not right, but part of it is they feel more like a person, right? I've looked at them, I see their name, I know something about them, and so I'm more likely to tip them than somebody who I don't really know much about them, and they often are not quite as friendly as Uber drivers. I've never gotten into a taxi, by the way, where they gave you water and they gave you other stuff, where they're trying to make your ride comfortable. I haven't seen a taxi. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, just saying I haven't done it. I haven't seen it. So it's just it's a different place.
No, you're right. And again, the air conditioning thing is a big thing for me as well. But that's cool. You had a good experience with the autonomous driving. It always makes me nervous as well. Even seeing you in there made me a little nervous. And seeing people here, because Teslas are huge where I am. I mean, they're all over the place right now. It's a status thing, but it's something where they all have their hands on the wheel. I rarely see people with their hands off the wheel that you can just say, I want to go to this location, take me here, da da da. So
I think that's autonomous. I think that's the full autonomous because of my car, it can't like stop at lights. Like it doesn't recognize lights and do right turns and stuff like that. It can't do that. But it can pretty much drive itself on the highway, right? It can
on the highway, but not on the roads.
Right. And so those are the ones that require you to have your hands on the wheel because it has very limitations. But when it does things like I recognize it's a red light, I'm going to stop at the red light. I'm going to make this right turn, right? Which is the fully autonomous version of Tesla does those sort of things.
Yeah.
I think that's when you can take your hand off the wheel. Although some of the other ones, at least on the highway, are getting to the point where they're like, you ain't got to put your hands on the wheel, man.
No,
you know what I'm
they
saying?
go around the vehicle, they'll accelerate, they'll cut them back off, they'll put the indicators on. It's pretty incredible. Yeah, I had a vehicle that did that for a while as well, so that was pretty cool. So, but
wait, what was that vehicle? You had a vehicle? What kind of vehicle?
It was a GMC truck.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, that's the one I saw that looked like it was sort of the next level. Was a GMC truck. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that's what it was. So it could handle highway speed, and we're locked in and go around vehicles and everything. Yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking at first, the first time you do it, but it's pretty cool to.
So you had that, and then you're afraid of a Waymo.
Yeah, in the city, because you don't see it in the city. You don't see it going light to light. Again, this is highway driving. Highway driving is a little bit more open, spread out, usually. The element of someone trying to cut you off to turn over 3 lanes is very different than on the highway, where it's usually 2 to 3 lanes. So, yeah.
Gotcha.
But on another note, I started my my regular full-time job this week.
Yes. How's it going, man?
So here's what happened this
What's
week.
old is new, right? What's new is old or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it was great being back in the building. I go in, I'm a hybrid, so I go in 3 days a week. I work from home Monday and Friday, but Monday is my first day and it's orientation. Mind you, I took 4 to 5 months off of work, like just chilled. I did a little consulting stuff here and there, but I was out of office. I wasn't in a full-time job. So it's my first day of consulting. My first day of working. I'm
Yeah.
in orientation 10 minutes before we go on our break because it's a Zoom orientation.
Okay, I was like, break. Damn, they already doing that,
Yeah.
but I got your Zoom. Okay.
Yeah. I get a call from the school. My son has a fever. You have to come get him now. By the way, school nurses are no joke, man. They're like ER checkout, like not hello, Mr. Ritchie, how are you doing? It was like your son's sick, has a fever, come get him now. Like that was the whole message I got from them. They called twice because the first time I was in.
Wait, so it was a voicemail you got?
No, well, the first time it was, and then I didn't answer it because I'm in orientation, right? So I'm on camera. So the second time they called, I'm like, okay, this has got to be important. It's the same number, right? So, so I answer it, and that's all they say. Come get your kid now. He has a fever, and I'm like, seriously.
And maybe because people argue that shit, but yeah.
Yeah.
First day
of work, orientation. So as soon as it goes to lunch, I'm running out of the house. I'm going to get my kid from school. Come home, try to get him on, the Tylenol, the Advil, whatever, to get the fever down. And turns out we ended up taking him to the urgent care the next day, and he has strep and flu. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Damn.
My first week back at work, you have to be a week off of school because the doctor's note was he cannot go back to school the rest of the week. And I'm like, can we give him a couple of days, maybe? Like,
can we get the other kids sick and then he come home? You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean,
them other kids.
You get over the fever. You're on the antibiotics. Come on, let's go. So that's what ended up happening was my youngest unfortunately ended up being home all last week, which was just what I had to still go into work. My wife luckily works from home, but that just added another layer of frustration or stress onto her because they just changed her requirements of working from home and expectations to get work done and just a lot of changes happening that week. Me back at work, I'm not home. My kid's sitting at home. She's at home having to work with new standards while trying to feed him and check on him and get him his medicine and everything else. And it was just, man, it was a stressful week last week. I mean, and getting back into corporate America. I haven't been in corporate America. In 3 years. In 3 years, I haven't been in corporate America, and I'm in like meeting after meeting after. Like, there's little I can do. I can't check in. I can't just say I'm going to stay home. It's my first week.
Right.
Like, hey, I appreciate the start. I need to be home for a couple of days here to watch my son. Like, okay, where's the dedication? Where's the all those pressures are there for sure. But it was a tough first week getting to meet my team, getting to understand what's going on, trying to learn the job. You don't know the job.
Right.
Your first week, you have no idea. You just got.
Well, you kind of don't. You have some idea of it because you've been there before, right? No, it's that different.
I know the company. I know the company, and I know the expectations. But this role,
okay,
I don't know. I don't know what they do on a daily basis. So,
okay.
And I have trainings I have to go to. I have like 30 computer-based trainings called CBTs that I have to take care of. I have to talk to. These meetings that I'm going to where you're walking into meetings about standards and expectations, but you don't know what they're talking about because again, this isn't your department that you just walk into this place, so and then
your boss can set you up a little bit, right? I mean, did they sort of give you any, I don't know, like prep or okay.
No.
That sounds like corporate America for sure. Like, get your ass in there and figure that shit out, right?
Luck, sink or swim. So I ended up setting up meetings with the former manager, the manager who left the department and the team.
Did they get promoted? Did they move to a different position? Like, they're still in the company.
They're still in the company, and they went into a single contributor position, where they just work for themselves instead of managing a team now. So they just do that, and they gave me a lot more insight than I have ever had, so that was a really good meeting. Plus I met the person who just got promoted out of the team. So I sat down with her as well, and I talked to her.
And why didn't she get promoted into your role if she got promoted out of the team?
She didn't get promoted into my role. She got promoted to another team.
So a similar role, just another team, similar level, just another team.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Similar level. She still got promoted, but apparently my role involved some traveling or some visiting of law firms and such, and she didn't want to do that. And this was news to me as well because I didn't get my role into that. So I'm finding out new things all the time, you know. So I'm like, okay, I did not realize that. I thought the level above me did some traveling,
Right,
but
right.
not this role. So it's just
That's funny.
maneuvering a lot of things. And one thing is still true is you have to be self-motivated. You have to
No.
be doing things on your own. There's no one telling you what needs to be done, expectations or anything else. So you got to be a good self-starter. And the cool thing was after being gone for almost 3 years, I had a pretty good reputation in the company because I
Nice.
boomerang back to the same company,
Hmm.
and it's nice. And this is a reason why you don't burn bridges, and you don't, you do what you need to do all the time because you want to leave your stamp in a good way.
Right.
Like you want to be able to walk back. No matter what frustrations or anything you were going through at the time, you want to be able to say, I did my job well. That's my footprint,
Yeah.
and people remembered me, and it was really cool to come back and see familiar faces and people happy that I was there. So, and I had two options. I had two different departments I could have
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
chose from,
Hmm.
and the one that I chose, they were very happy that I chose them because they were aware that I had these options as well.
Nice,
So
nice.
that
Okay.
was is kind of cool. But next week, I'm meeting my whole team one on one. Like I was at a couple of team meetings, and introducing myself to everybody and giving them a brief rundown of my
Wait, when you say
history.
at a team meeting, you weren't running that team meeting?
I mean, what can you run when you're showing up to your first team meeting or your second team meeting? Like second one was a fun one because it's Halloween,
Okay.
and the one before that is just an introduction, like, hey, what's going on? But I have no idea. I mean, I tried to run it the best I could. Is there anything we need to talk about? Any concerns? Anything frustrations? What do I know?
Right.
Like these are just basic high level stuff that it's surface. It's nothing real. So the first round of meetings, one on one with each of my team members, will be over 3 days next week,
Mm,
and
okay.
and understanding what their roles are and what their concerns and needs are, and just getting to know them because I feel like my job at this point coming in is just to support what they need to get done and
Okay.
understand what any frustrations they've had because they haven't had a manager in about 5 or 6 months.
Okay.
A consistent one. They had one that was checking in on them that was managing other teams, but now my job is to show that they are supported and they have a go-to person that can help get answers for them and everything. So
Okay.
yeah, so that was
So
my
you
first crazy week.
well, that sounds like well, it sounds crazy because especially because your personal stuff that's involved in it, and also finding out that you're going to be traveling when you didn't know that. That's interesting. By the way, you didn't know it, but do you look at that as a plus or a minus?
Well, my big thing is family first.
Mm,
So I will travel as long as I don't have my boys. Even though my
okay.
wife is here to watch them and take care of them, I only get my boys every other week. It's
Right.
important to me to spend time with them, and I will definitely work out arrangements that if I do have to go anywhere, it will be on the weeks that they're not here.
Yeah, that's
So,
fair. I
so
mean,
I I, I do enjoy traveling. It's not necessarily the anyone that's done business traveling knows that it's not the most fun thing to do. Everyone
right.
thinks that, oh, this is neat, exotic. That your company's sending you there. You see the airport, which you're stuck at. You see the hotel.
Right.
You see the hotel, and then whatever office or business you're going to. That's it. You're not sightseeing. You're not checking out the nice restaurants. You're not going around doing anything fun and exciting.
Well,
But
you
people
need to
have that
travel
vision
better,
in their
bro.
minds. No, who has time for that, dude? You're working all day. You're gonna go out later on and
That's
go
the
see a
problem. See,
Broadway show. So
why are you working all day? That's what I need to
yeah,
understand. Why are you
I know,
working all
right?
day?
Who puts in that kind of
That
time?
kind of messes that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So,
So you said that it was a fun meeting because it was Halloween. So did any of your
yeah.
folks dress up?
So no, we didn't dress up because we're all on Zoom. No one goes into the office. But what we did
Um,
was our theme, and we deal with the court system a lot and the legal side. So we did a thing where in our background we put a movie a picture of a
oh, like
movie,
a
and
scene
then
from
we
a movie.
a scene from a movie, and then we gave a clue And you can't see that, because we're off camera, but we're giving clues as to what that background would be. So like mine was, my clue was, you can't handle the truth. You can't handle the
Wait,
truth.
so what? That's
And
easy, but you weren't you.
right.
It wasn't like scary / Halloween movies.
No, because not everyone celebrates Halloween. So we were trying to be respectful of the fact that there were some people on the team
That sounds
that
like corporate America right there.
yes,
It's respectful
exactly.
of everybody's.
It is.
It's like,
It is, and
it's actually not bad. It's right,
because
but it's
I
like
did
the second you said that.
because in the group setting, there was one person who missed the first day, and this next day I was like, "Hey, you weren't there the first time. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what's going on this weekend." And they did, and I said, "Well, you didn't mention anything about Halloween. Taking your kid trick or treating? We don't celebrate Halloween."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. And in the past, let's go back 15, 20 years, I would have been, oh, well, that's weird. Trick or treating is great. You have candy. What's wrong with you? And it's like,
Right.
and now I'm talking to HR.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing is I listen. I do think that we can be a little bit brittle at times, right? In that if you ask someone, did you do anything for Halloween? And they go, we don't celebrate Halloween. You should understand that people don't celebrate, but they shouldn't get so offended. Like, oh my God, he asked me about Halloween. Like, that's the crap. I'm just like, bro, I'm like, come on, man. Like, it's too much. Like, I didn't know, right? And so now, by the way, if it's a very sort of limit, I know Christians don't celebrate Halloween, but I also know most Christians I know celebrate Halloween, right? So it's not like you're going against Christianity, or at least not going against Christians, because most Christians I know celebrate Halloween. That doesn't mean they celebrate sort of the origin of Halloween, of the paganism and all that sort of stuff, but they celebrate it as an opportunity to let the kids dress up in costume and go out and trick or treat and get candy and have fun. Not let's worship the devil. That's not what most Christians think. So I think people sometimes can be a little bit overly sensitive about those things. And so as long as nobody's overly sensitive about it, I think you're fine.
I was surprised the first time I heard a lot of people don't celebrate Thanksgiving. And I was like, oh, wow. And I found this more and more a theme that not because of religion, just because of historical context, people don't celebrate Thanksgiving for what it represents to them when it comes around. Yeah.
Okay. So I get that the story that's told about Thanksgiving is like there was this kumbaya moment between the English settlers and the Pilgrims, I guess, and the Indian and the Native Americans, right? And that's not what had happened. I get that, but I also know that what it means now could theoretically be different, right? And so what it means now is it's an opportunity, right? It's a tradition that people have used to connect with their families, and to give thanks for the blessings that they have, or whatever. But you may not be religious, but give thanks for the things that you have in your life, right? And that is okay, right? In the same way that Columbus Day, it was celebrating a guy who discovered a place that was already discovered, right? You know what I'm saying? Like somebody coming to your house and be like, I discovered this house. This is my house now.
Right. I use that example all the time. It's funny you say that, because I use that example all the time.
I discovered this house. They'd be like, no, bro, this is my house. I'm living here. Like, you can't discover it. Well, I'm now I got the basement now. You're like, what the fuck? Like, this is not how this shit works. So I get it, right? I get it. I understand that. And when you dehumanize the people that you conquer, it becomes easier to tell those sort of stories, right? So I get that there needs to be a reckoning related to those things. But I also recognize that there can be a reckoning related to those things, and you can still go, but we can celebrate Indigenous people on that day. There can be a reckoning with Thanksgiving and go, but now we celebrate, our family and the time that we can spend with our family, right? You don't have to throw the whole thing out because the origin of it was wrong. Because the truth is that so much of what we know and what we do and what we have and celebrate have a victim associated with it, right? And if we focus on the victim, which sometimes we need to focus on the victim, right? We need to give them their airtime. We need to understand their perspective, and we need to give them, sort of make things right with them. But sometimes when you focus on the victim, you lose what could be a plus from what happens. And I think, by the way, this is a nuanced conversation simply because what people who, like, if I'm somebody and I go, F them, if I'm racist, right? F them Indians. I wouldn't say Native American. F them Indians. It's all about Christopher Columbus, right? That's the same argument that they can make when they say, we have it both ways, right? Because their motivation is F the Indians, I don't really care about them, right? And so they can go, so we don't have to completely throw Christopher Columbus under the bus because of that, right? Or they don't have to say we have to completely get rid of Thanksgiving because of that. So it's a weird situation where you're trying to be sort of reasonable and thoughtful about it, about both sides. Are there any pluses here? But also, are there any victims that historically have not been recognized as victims, and that we need to make things right with? Can we do both of those things? And oftentimes, the people who want to do, who don't want to completely abolish, are people who don't actually believe that there were any real victims in that. They think, forget those people. And oftentimes, the people who want to abolish the thing are the people who don't see that there's any positive in it. And I think that there's a middle ground a lot of times in those things where you can see some positive in it. You don't have to abolish the whole thing. It's like the police. I know I'm going into a weird thing, but it's like the police. It's like, yeah, there were a lot of negatives and issues, and police have historically done terrible things, both systemically and as individual officers, to Black people and minorities and members of the African American community, especially in America. Like that, there is no denying that has happened in rampant ways that has happened to no other community in the United States related to the police. But that doesn't mean that we need to get rid of police, and that doesn't mean that all police officers are terrible, and are and that sort of thing. So you have to find the balance in all of those things, and I think that nobody's willing to have nuanced conversations anymore. They're all only willing to talk about the extreme version, because you get on your soapbox and decide I'm right, and everybody else is wrong, and you are insert characteristic, insert label if you don't agree with my perspective. And I think that makes these conversations really hard. I just went to a weird place with Thanksgiving or whatever, but before we move on, I don't know, do you have any thoughts about that? Because I do want to share something real quick.
No, I agree. Yeah, it can't. I don't think that ignoring what history is a bad thing or a good thing. I think it is what it is. It is what it was, and it is where we are now. And some things become tradition just because you've always done it.
Right.
And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. Traditions come from a place that that bring people together and that have a commonality there.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say that we can forget the bad stuff. I think learning is important. I think understanding is important, and I don't think just because we learn something new we can say something was completely bad that we were doing before.
Yeah.
I think it can just be, okay, that's where it came from. That's an unusual place. Okay. But we can also say, but it means something different now, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
Like,
or it came from a racist place. It could come from a terrible place. Like, let's be clear. It could start in a very, very bad place, and you could still go. But let's look at where we are now and see what's the best way to go forward. We don't have to completely, the same. Here's the thing. If your family has been here since slavery, especially if your family was in the South, you probably owned slaves. Your family did. And if you have any amount of generational wealth, it probably came at some point on the backs of slaves. That can be true, right?
It could be true.
That can be true. And yet, that doesn't mean that you as an individual are a terrible racist human being. Right? You know what I'm saying? Just because because slavery was as reprehensible as any systemized act comes, aside from maybe just straight genocide without slavery, right? Just killing everybody before you, or something like that. I don't know. I probably don't even understand that part of it. But that doesn't mean that the people who benefited from it 200, 300 years later, right, are terrible people, right? So there can be some reasonableness. Now, I think what folks would want people to understand is that you should recognize, like, let's say you're the generic white person who had family in the South. That's not who you are, by the way. Family in the South, owned slaves, has some generational wealth that you benefited from in some way. That doesn't mean you're wealthy personally, but there's some affluence there. That what I think it's important for you to recognize is that it did come on the backs of some people that you owned at the time. Now, you could argue that, well, we were allowed to own them at the time. That was where we were, all that sort of stuff. But recognize that as the people who were owned at that time, it feels like you benefited by torturing, by mutilating, by making me build the thing for you, making my people build the thing for you. And so there can be a recognition that happens. That doesn't mean that now all of a sudden you got to give me all your wealth, right? I'll take it, but that doesn't mean that that's what has to happen, right? So I think that sometimes people feel like they can't recognize something, they can't understand something, they can't see both sides of it, and still sort of take their perspective, right? They feel like if I see both sides, then I probably have to switch my perspective. Not necessarily. Sometimes maybe you do, but you don't always have to sort of change your perspective on that thing. All right, but I wanted to show you something, so we're gonna try this whole share screen thing. We're gonna see how this works, especially with our guy who does the stuff. But I wanted to share something with you. So for Halloween, can you see that? Do you see this picture? I don't know if I'm doing it right. I might be doing it wrong. Which screen do you see right now?
I see you with a chain and
Yeah. All right. So good.
Yeah.
All right. There we go. So this is my Halloween outfit.
Why do you need 4 screens, man? That's a lot of screens. Holy cow! You got like 2 laptops and 2 monitors or something?
Wait, do you see all my screens or just one?
I see that you have. Well, I mean, your picture shows.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
That you have 2 screens and two laptops.
It's like,
so you got to walk around with these 2 laptops or something.
It's like Minority Report, man. It's like Minority Report.
This is ridiculous.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's like Minority Report.
So this is you.
So this
who
is
are you
me.
supposed to be here? What is this?
Yeah, so that was the problem. Was the people yelled at me because I didn't know who I was supposed to be. I was just a random hip hop person. The way this outfit came about was that one
Looks
of
like
my
Run DMC something.
It's Run DMC. It's Busta Rhymes. It's LL Cool J. It's Diggable Planets. It's
so you're trying to represent all hip hop is what you're
90s, 90s,
okay.
Hip hop, Fresh Prince, all that stuff.
Sure.
So, but here's where it came from. Where it came from was one of my frat brothers. We do. I host along with my fraternity a monthly karaoke night, and this time we moved it to the day before Halloween, so Thursday the 30th. And it was costume dress up, and he wanted to do some LL Cool J songs with me, right? So, so I said I agreed to do it, and so I had to go get some sort of '90s hip hop costume with a Kango and that sort of thing. So that was what I ended up getting, and it just so happened to have some sneakers that kind of matched some of the colors in the picture. Technically, that shirt comes with shorts. But I was at work and I was like, I'm not gonna gonna do shorts, by the way. Oh, by the way, can I show you something? These little things on the window. This is not my office, by the way. I don't have an office, but we're in a shutdown situation and my boss is furloughed, and so I'm in his office.
You're in his office.
I'm in his office. By the way, one of the employees took a picture, took this picture and asked my permission to send it to him. And I was like, sure, he's a decent dude. But I don't normally put my feet. Honestly, it took him like 15 seconds to convince me to put my feet up. I was like, I'm going to put my feet on the damn desk. But they asked me, and I was like, no. And it was like, no, shit, it's just, I was like, I'm not doing it. I was like, it would look good. I was like, effing fine. I didn't say effing, but I was like, fine. So I put it up, and then they took a picture. I was like, can we send it to the boss now? I was like, so it's all this, and then you're going to sit there.
No.
I told him it was fine because if I'm going to do something, I'm not going to be ashamed of it, right?
You said you're in your boss's office with your foot up on his desk, and you're like, let's send it to his. Okay.
Listen,
how did that go? Tell me how that went.
I don't know because I don't know. I wasn't part of it. He didn't say anything to me. He's furloughed right now, and so I'm sure when I come back and I get demoted, I'll find out. But I don't think he's that person. Just to be honest, that's part of it. Was I know him? He's not that person. But anyway, so this is my thing. But I want real quick these pictures. These Post-it notes. What happened was when I went on leave. Right, and we just talked about, and I came back. All these Post-it notes were up there, and so when I deliver leadership content into a classroom, I often tell dad jokes, and so the team thought it would be cute or fun or whatever to post a bunch of dad jokes, and so every day they said, all right, we need to post some dad jokes in Bish's, not my office, but the office I'm operating in his office, and they would just put it in. So these are all just a bunch of dad jokes. And so it was very cute that when I came back, they put that up there. I thought that was sweet that they did that. But anyway, so that's one picture. Can I get to the other pictures? Here's the other picture. So here's some other folks. I probably should blur them out. So I'm going to say our editor, go ahead before we post this, blur the faces of those folks out because they did not give permission to be on this when you show this. So blur the pictures out except for mine.
What's the backpack guy supposed to be?
He is just a random Star Wars person, and that is a little robot. And the cutest part, you see in his hand right there, he's got a little thing. He can press buttons on that, and his robot will make little robot sounds like it's talking to you. It was so cool. It was actually so cool, man. He's a very smart and unique guy. And so do I have one more? And then this was a post from the IG account of
Karaoke
my
night.
fraternity where I was rapping, doing LL Cool J I'm Bad with my partner that night. So anyway, I just wanted to share that real quick. So I'll stop sharing here.
Nice.
Somehow I'll stop sharing, but anyway, so yeah, so I mentioned that to say I don't normally dress up for Halloween. I only had a costume simply because like I said, my fraternity brother, said I want to do a LL Cool J and I want you to dress up. I'm gonna get a Kango. And he sent me a link, and I found a slightly different one, which was good because otherwise we'd had the exact same thing on. But yeah, so technically I dressed up for Halloween, and then I dressed up that way. I put the shorts on during trick or treat time. I didn't go trick or treating, but when I went to the door to get people, I had the full costume on, so it was fun.
So we didn't plan on being home for Halloween. We were celebrating our anniversary a week early because we have the kids next week. And again, since I only get them every other week, we try not to leave them at the house and go do our own thing. When we're with them, we want to spend time with them. So I had a nice dinner planned for Halloween, and then I told you my son was sick. Strep and flu, and my wife was here taking care of him, so she got sick, really sick, and started feeling a little bit better by the 31st, but we decided it was best to stay home and rest. So we
Right.
turned off all the lights because we had no candy. If anyone knocked on the door, we were going to give out toothbrushes or pennies
Yeah.
or whatever they used to give out,
Yeah.
So we had nothing prepared. So so we just turned off all the lights, shut all the blinds, and made our way upstairs. So that was.
Did anybody still knock on the door?
No, we were
Good.
lucky.
So
But
they pay attention then. They pay attention.
so
That's
yeah,
good.
we were outside, actually by the fire. We put the fire outside, the fire pit outside, and we just hung out outside. But we could hear all the kids walking around the neighborhood. And the cool thing that we do around here is a lot of times there's an app that says we are doing Halloween.
Oh,
So
nice.
come to these houses, So if you
Nice. I've
see a
heard of that
house
before.
that doesn't have the lights on or whatever, to avoid the houses with no lights on. But if they're actually on the app and it says, yeah, we're doing Halloween, then you just go to those houses, and it makes things a
Nice.
lot more efficient and a lot easier,
Yeah,
So
I'm sure somebody would turn that into a way to victimize people. I don't know exactly how, but I'm sure there's going to be a way for somebody to be like, I don't break it to you. How I don't. There's going to be something. There's going to
yeah.
be something. But
Well,
yeah.
I mean, we were still home, We just turned off all the lights, which I don't like to do that. Nighttime, I like to turn on the lights. But after 9:30, I came back and turned on the lights and everything outside because I think it's important to have your lights on outside at nighttime, anyways, for security and everything else. But we ended up having a pretty decent Halloween, just hanging out in the backyard by the fire pit and talking, So
Nice.
that,
Very
that was
nice.
the
That
Halloween.
sounds
But
nice.
so yeah, we didn't dress up. My boys. Went trick or treating with their friends. My youngest didn't because he was still sick and didn't really want to be really active. He couldn't do any soccer or anything this week either.
Right.
But he's recovering. But yeah, that was Halloween for us. Is pretty low key and chill. Yeah. So
Nice. Well,
yeah.
sometimes, by the way, I'm glad that you didn't go, well, I'm going to go out, even though you got sick taking care of my child, wife. So
Yeah.
that was a good thing that you did.
Yeah. I'll show you pictures of the restaurant that I went to while you're staying.
Right. Right. Exactly.
That's a great anniversary dinner.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So,
But actually, we did end up going to the restaurant we met at for our first date last night. So
nice. Nice.
that. So we both made plans for the weekend. I did my set of plans, and she did her set of plans. And
Like separate, like you're going to do something individual. Like, what does that mean?
No. Like I made plans for us to do on Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and she made plans for us to do on Saturday.
Okay, that's a very different than what you just made it sound like. Like,
Right.
okay, but I got you.
So,
Okay.
so that's what it is. So we each planned our own anniversary dinner for each other, and
Nice.
we couldn't do mine on Friday. So I'll probably reschedule it for sometime this week.
Well, you should just recognize that in marriage, you're not going to do most of the shit that you plan. So just let it go.
So we did hers.
You did hers. That's really the same as doing y'all.
hers,
So
yeah.
that's that's
But it
essentially
was
how
a
that
really
works.
nice dinner. The person that took care of us was amazing. The server was great. The restaurant was, again, the place that we met originally for our first date. So we had a really good time last night. So that was a celebration of our first anniversary, actually. So
Well, that's good. And I will acknowledge, I wouldn't have imagined that strip clubs would have like nice dinners or
Isn't that
prepared for
crazy?
that. So that the
Yeah,
fact that they
but-
did, like they took care of you, Like, was the waitress like, was she
You know,
dressed?
it's funny
You
you
know?
make that joke because people used to ask me like, where did you meet your wife? And I go, well, she was coming out of the strip club as I was going in, so that was
Mm.
always my joke until she heard it, and then
Yeah, jokes are great until the people who are part of it hear it, and then they mess it all up. You know what I'm saying? Like, what kind of
and
crap
then
is
it
that?
goes so well. Yeah, that joke's also funny, you know. So
No, it's funny. It's just that now you got to think about
not
her.
not.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I didn't actually meet her at a strip club. You know, she
Yeah,
was just a
so
call
yeah,
girl.
she
You know,
she
so it was just
wasn't a
like, what the hell?
stripper,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh. Yeah,
yeah,
you know what the funny part is? It is funny. It's also funny. Jokes are often funny, except for the person that's the butt of the joke, right? And in that particular case, in your mind, she technically is the butt of the joke, right? You know what I'm saying? So I can get that. I can get that. But I also
yeah.
sometimes think, it's just an effing joke, man. Like, but I know. But
So
but
you
it,
know,
it feels that way until you're the person that's the butt of the joke, though. You
yeah.
know.
So I've been married almost 1 year now. This is my third marriage. You've
Hmm.
been married 25, 20 years,
1996, almost 30. This
almost
is our
30.
30th year.
Dang, 30 year next
We're
year will
coming
be
next year is
30
our
years.
30. We just finished our 29th
30
year.
years
Yeah.
next year. Okay, so my question for
Asking
you,
me math relationship questions on the
man, no,
spot. You should have
my
told me
my
ahead of
my
time. I could have done the
my
math. All
my
right.
my question for you is, as someone who's been married a while now, and you know you were young, and now not so much, no kids in the house. But when you get in arguments
Hmm. You think we get arguments?
and you resolve the argument,
So you think we get in arguments, but also you think when we do, we resolve them. That's
yeah,
pretty nice of you. Okay, go ahead.
how is like what do you do? Do you act like there was no argument? Do you just play it off as like, okay, we were angry yesterday, today we're fine, there's no issue, we just move on from there? How do you have you learned over the years to handle disagreements like that?
So I think I'm going to say there's two parts of it, right? So I don't, maybe I'm a slow student, but I don't know that I've learned a particular way. So here's what I will tell you.
I
What I
haven't
will
learned
tell
a
you
particular.
is that how she handles it is different from how I prefer to handle it. And how
Sure.
I handle it is different from how she prefers to handle it.
Right.
So she prefers to handle like it didn't happen. She's gonna pretend like we never gotten into an argument. The way I handle it is we need to resolve this shit. Like we need to put a bow on this joker so we don't have to have this particular argument again. If you was wrong, you need to fucking apologize. If I was wrong, I'm not wrong, so I don't need to apologize. You know, something like that. You know what I'm
Because
saying?
you're not
So
wrong. You're not
yeah,
wrong.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
never wrong. So so it needs to be it's that sort of thing. Like I need closure to the disagreement. Like I need us to have closure. And she often just thinks we just should pretend like it didn't happen. Um, and so what I will say is that I think that over the 30 plus years we've been together since 1992. So it's been 20, 32 years, 20, 33 years for it, something like that. What I think has been learned is she has learned to work better at providing closure, to not just acting like it didn't happen. And what I've learned is that everything doesn't need a effing conclusion paragraph to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? You don't need to actually go back and have an after action review for every damn argument that you had. Um, and there are times when we didn't resolve, right? Because not everything gets resolved. Sometimes it doesn't get resolved. And one of the pluses of her strategy of just acting as if is that if it was up to me, we would after the first time, it would never we would still be dealing with the first unresolved argument. Because I was still like, we gonna resolve it or we not talking. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so her strategy of continuing on with life and continuing on as if you love each other, and I don't say as if, but you may be mad, so you may not feel it, right? But to continue on doing the things to be loving towards each other, often creates the resolution that I'm trying to seek with the closure, right? And so I've learned that all resolutions don't look exactly the same, right? They don't look of we talk about it because I'm a talker, right? So we talk about it, we come to this intellectual conclusion of what happened, who was wrong, you know, what we should each do differently going forward, and then sort of put a bow on it. Sometimes it's that wasn't great. We both didn't handle it as well as we should. but we both love each other, and let's have dinner and talk about our day, right? As opposed to this sort of intellectual conclusion that I often try to come to. And so I've learned that her strategy of having those of going towards moving forward amicably actually has a lot of benefit. One, because not everything can be solved, and two, because sometimes in the time that you're trying to solve something, I can create an environment that is not so loving, where she's trying to create a loving environment that is good for the relationship. Like I see these videos all the time that where they show, and they're like, you mad at the person, but you still love them, right? And they show like what you do, and you're like, and you open the door for them, and you fluff the pillow for them, and you do stuff for them. And in my mind, I'm like, I would do none of that shit. If I'm mad at you, I ain't doing none of it. And whereas she will do those things, even if she's mad, she will not like actively mad, but like post mad, she will still do those things. And I think there's a lot that I've learned from that. I still struggle with it. There's a lot that I've learned. So I won't say that there's a one way to do it, because there is no one way that we've done it. It varies depending on the situation. But what I think we've each learned is that there are benefits to the other way, and that learning what the other person needs and leaning into that as much as you are able to over time, because it takes time, that's a good thing. Don't know if I answered your question or not, but that's what I would say. What
So
about you?
do you,
Okay.
so for me, it is, I've always been an aggressive person, but when it comes to relationships, it's been, if we're arguing, I'm usually out of the relationship. I'm in a new place now. Again, this is marriage number
I don't
three.
I don't understand what that means
Yeah.
exactly.
So there was, in the past, there was very little confrontation,
Mm-hmm.
because I wouldn't entertain it. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't entertain that there was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
there was nothing to work through before. And if there was a problem, then I was pretty much out of the relationship.
Okay.
If you're not happy, then you don't need to be here. And I don't want to be with somebody who's upset with me. So I'm in a new world now, where as I've gotten older, um, you can have a disagreement and still care for that person,
Mm-hmm.
where that was never a thought for me before, because I didn't want to be with someone who wanted to argue, wanted to fight, found problems, found faults, or whatever. So,
Mm-hmm.
so it was something that, this is a new world for me to
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, maybe I didn't handle that situation well, and I understand your perspective,
Right.
and I can try to do better in the future, which is very different personally than it is professionally. Because professionally, if you give me constructive feedback to do something better, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I want to do that. I want to make the team feel better. I
Right.
want my team to be successful, and I want this situation to work out. Which is ironic, because I've been a manager or leader for 25 years.
Right.
So it's interesting that I never put the two together and said, you can get feedback professionally and you can get feedback personally, and you should handle it almost similar.
Yeah.
Before, I was like, if you're attacking me
Well, as long as you're
personally,
handling it well, you should handle it similar. But yeah.
yeah, right. And I did. I always took professional feedback very well. I can't say always. I would say in the last 15 years. It probably
Okay.
took me a while to get there to take it personally, not take it personally,
Right.
when it was professional feedback. But I think I've grown and matured, which we all do over time. But um, personally, when my partner was upset with me, I'd be like, if you have a problem, there's the door, no problem, and I'll
Right.
move on from there. And now I'm in a position where it's like, okay, so how do we work through this? How do we
Mm.
work this out that we still come back to each other and still want to be intimate, still want to share, and be together? And I think that's a mindset different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I can tell you from the past when I've been frustrated and I've talked to married friends that are frustrated, I go, come with me, jump off the bridge together. We are leaving this relationship and
Yeah.
and we're going to do this as a team. But I was very immature in my relationship
Mm.
in understanding that you can work through difficult situations and respect each other and come together, you know,
Yeah.
whereas I didn't think I was going to get married again after for the third time. After the second, I was done with marriage. You know, it's just
Right.
something that's like, I'll date, and as long as it's fun, it's cool. And if it gets complicated, I'm out because we're just dating, you know.
Right.
So what? And now I'm in a situation where I'm really happy with my partner and the life that we have. And um there's the challenges that will come up that we'll work through because we want to work through it
Right.
together, you know. So, and I think that's the difference, is the will to want to work through things together, you know.
Mm.
I think that's it, because you like you said, when you get in arguments, you still love each other, but how do you work through the frustration that you just had
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the day before or 2 days ago, you know, whatever the case might be.
Right.
And it's funny because I'm a lot like your wife, where it's like, we talked about the situation already. Why are you wanting to rehatch it to have closure to it? I thought we are good from here. And you're like, no, I want to take it down the dotted line and say, okay, so you are admitting you were wrong during the situation. And like, I'm not admitting I was wrong. I'm just saying this could have been handled differently. And like, say the words, you were wrong.
Yes,
And
please say
you
them.
want to
Say
win.
them.
You want to win an argument. And
No, no,
sometimes
no. Come on, don't. No, you were doing so
you,
good, and now you're trying to
so,
label
but
the
that's
other
what it
person.
is. When you
No,
want the other person to admit that their argument and their stance was wrong, but really, it's just a different perspective
wait. Oh, so
on the
that's
same
true. But here's the
situation.
thing. Here's the thing. Is that if I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong, then it's not about being right. It's about taking accountability for your contributions to the argument. So if there are times in the argument where you were incorrect or where you misstepped, having accountability for that allows you to then learn from it. Because if you don't acknowledge it, then you're just going to do it again. Right. And so my standpoint is it's not about right or wrong. It's about accountability so that you can learn from it so that you can be better the next time. Because I don't want to do this
See,
shit again. Right.
I disagree in that sense that if they don't admit they were wrong, they're just going to do it again. I disagree. I think the fact that you guys were in a disagreement, they also do not want that situation to arise again.
How do I know that if they're not saying it?
You don't have to get them to say it,
No,
because
no. How do I? No, 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 no. How
you
do
already
I? No,
resolved
listen.
it.
How do I know it?
Yeah.
Okay, so they don't say it. Then how do I know it?
Right. Because of the way they're treating you. So she's still cooking dinner for you.
No, no, no.
She's
That
still
doesn't mean they're
she's
not going
still
to do the thing that in the argument again.
But you talked it out and you resolved it. You don't
No,
need to get, I was at
Eric,
fault here.
answer my actual question. My
Yeah.
actual question is, how do
Yeah.
I know they won't do that again?
This is the part about trust in a relationship. You
We,
got to
we haven't
trust.
talked. What am I trusting if we haven't even talked about it?
You already talked about it
No,
because
no,
you
we no, no,
resolved the
no, no,
situation.
no. Okay. What's resolved to you? What does it mean to resolve?
Okay. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
This is a very simple example. Your wife wanted to surprise you with dinner.
Mhm.
And it was a tough week. So Friday, she ordered pizza with pepperoni, and you're
Mhm.
like, I don't like pepperoni on my pizza. I don't understand why you would order I mean, like, I appreciate you ordering dinner. I'm not going to eat the pizza because you have pepperoni on it, and I can't eat it. I'm not going to eat the pizza. Which she's like, I'm trying to do something nice for you. Why can't you just accept the pizza? Like, I know we had a lot going on, and you're like, no, I'm not going to eat pizza with pepperoni on it. And you guys get into this discussion or argument about it, whatever it might be. But it's over. You ate your dinner. She ate her dinner. The next time she orders pizza, I'm willing to bet it's not going to have pepperoni on it. So she doesn't have to say, I was wrong for getting you pepperoni on that pizza, because you guys had the discussion about it. You had the disagreement about it. You're never going to see pepperoni on your pizza because your point was already made. You don't need her to say, sorry, I ordered you pepperoni on your pizza. And it's never going to happen again. Her actions are going to show you it's not going to happen again. And you gotta believe that in your relationship, that the actions that are shown are going to be more than the words that are said.
Okay. I take your point. You make a very articulate point.
Yeah, I try.
But
No, I
there
don't
is
add a but. No but.
there
Don't
is
add a but.
another
Just take the
perspective.
points.
Here's the other perspective. The other
Okay.
perspective, there's two
Okay.
parts of it, right?
Okay.
One is that you don't actually, if the person doesn't actually change and you don't have evidence that they will change, right? Then that is a confirmation that they may not always see the point that you're making. That's one. Two is if every mistake you make is boiled down to the very specific set of circumstances that surround that mistake, you're just going to keep making slightly different mistakes constantly. An example might be that conversation was about pepperoni. What if I don't like pepperoni and anchovies? But we don't talk about it. We only talk about the pepperoni. We talked about the pepperoni. You know, I don't like pepperoni. And now the next time she does it, she doesn't order pepperoni, as you suggested, but she orders anchovies. And now we got to be like, well, I don't like anchovies. As opposed to saying, hey, what about thinking about what I like and don't like before you order some food for me? That's a larger conversation that avoids 15 other mistakes that happen.
Or to your point, hey, if you're going to order pizza, and I appreciate it because that's a nice surprise, let's talk about that.
But my point is, the point is not talking about it, right? That's my point. That's the closure I'm talking about, is having those sorts of conversations, right? So that we can avoid the issue in the future.
You can't preemptively have a conversation, I'm sorry, in any relationship that says, these are all the things that are going to bug me or bother me, or I don't eat, or this is the problem. There's no way of having that conversation.
You're making it larger, but in this case,
right,
the idea of, if you're going to order, I'm using your exact example, right? So the idea of, you don't have to make it in the, you need to talk to me before you do everything, right? That's not the circumstance. You took it larger. I'm saying, take it as, hey, if you're going to order food for me, it's a food conversation now.
Sure.
Can you please make sure that you order me something that I like?
How do I know you don't like anchovies, man? We never talked about anchovies before.
No, we have. The point is, they knew pepperoni.
We talked about anchovies before?
No, not you and me. I'm saying the person.
I'm just saying.
No, because in your scenario, I assume that at some point they knew you didn't like pepperoni, correct? In your scenario.
Perhaps.
Oh, well, that's on you.
Or they're learning it for the first time.
Well, then why would you why would you react that way if they didn't know? Like that.
No. So they're not. You are saying, thank you for the pizza.
But no, you also said I'm not going to eat it. I'm not going to eat it.
I'm not going to eat pepperoni on my pizza because I don't eat pepperoni on my pizza. I'm sorry you didn't know that, but I'm going to make chicken nuggets over here because we got chicken nuggets in the freezer. So I'm going to make that. But I appreciate the thought, and that turns into the argument of, you don't appreciate what I did for you. I ordered you pizza because I knew we were having a tough week.
Well, we're getting into the details, but they're right.
My thoughts. So.
You should have ate that guy that eat the cake anime. Like, what are you doing? Unless you're allergic to pepperoni, bro, eat the pepperoni, man.
You're not going to because you don't like it. You don't like pepperoni.
Hey, but I like the person more than I dislike pepperoni, so I'm going to go ahead and eat it. Anyway, that's a whole different thing. My point is that you can have conversations that can help prevent future issues. Because if every disagreement that you're going to have has to be only addressed, if every disagreement you have can only prevent that exact disagreement in the future, then that means the only way you learn is by trial and error. And that is a painful way to learn. And but I'm saying
that's how it is.
No, it doesn't have to be that. That is often how it is, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can actually learn by thinking through things and having conversations that help you preempt some of those disagreements. Every disagreement doesn't have to be figured out after you have the disagreement. That is a painful way.
You've been married almost 30 years.
Yes.
Have you had a disagreement in the last week or two?
I don't think so, but my memory's bad, so I'm trying to make sure I'm not lying. Give me a second. No, did not have a disagreement, although she did share a perspective, but no disagreement.
Okay. So you are still figuring things out 30 years into your marriage.
Yes.
Or 33 years into your relationship that you can't cover until it happens.
Yes, but you're making the point to suggest that you can't cover some things before they happen. And I'm saying that, yes, I'm not saying that you can prevent every future misunderstanding,
Right.
that you're going to learn everything through proactive conversations. I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that there is a balance between what it sounds like your perspective is, which is we only deal with the actual disagreement that we had, and we only learn about that specific disagreement after we've had it, and then we'll hit the future disagreements whenever we have it, which what sounds like you're talking about, versus right. And the other part is the other extreme is right. We try to preempt every possible disagreement by talking about everything in advance and trying to prevent it. Right. That's extreme. I'm saying there's somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle is if you have a disagreement, right? One, you can have proactive conversations in general, just to talk about and learn each other. But then also, if you actually have a disagreement, right? And oftentimes that becomes a misunderstanding. Like somebody didn't understand how important something was to somebody or something like that, but you have a disagreement. Right. It's okay to say, can we extrapolate this out to some larger thing? Dadgummit.
Look what you did.
Come on, camera. Thank you. Can we extrapolate this out to some larger thing that could prevent some amount of future disagreements and create some amount of additional understanding? And I'm saying that there is the ability to have those conversations to prevent some of it, not all of it, but some of it. And a proactive conversation that prevents a future argument is a much better conversation to have than having that future argument. And what if one proactive conversation prevents 5 future arguments? That return is way better, right? So I'm saying that it's okay to do that. So have a little bit of balance there, buddy, as opposed to suggesting that everything has to happen, that everything has to be learned after the fact. You can, in fact, learn some things ahead of time. Yeah.
Interesting is, so I was talking to a new coworker of mine who just found out he's pregnant, and he's almost 40 years old. And I had my kids at 38 and 40. And a buddy of mine had his probably 48, 49.
Have you seen the movie Old Dads, by the way? With Bill Burr and Bokeem Woodbine and some
I
other
started
people.
to watch it. I did not enjoy it. But
that's because it felt like a documentary.
I don't know if it felt too real. But,
you should watch that just for the
he
old
was a little
dads.
too angry. Bill Burr was a little too angry.
He's always angry. That's his persona. But you need to watch that because
I did.
Anyway, go ahead.
I did watch most of it, but so I'm telling this guy, a buddy of mine had his 10 years after you, basically, and they were together. Him and his wife were together for almost 20 years, and you're with your wife for almost 15 years. And I said, the biggest stress on a relationship is going to be kids. And you're not going to think that because you're thinking you're bringing this little bundle of joy into the world, and you and your wife wanted this kid, and you're so excited to have it finally.
Yeah, it's a bundle of joy that turns into a pile of terror.
Almost 40, but the first 2 years with this child for my friend that had the kid later on was the most challenging in his relationship. And he's already with his wife for 20 years. And it's because they never discussed how they were going to raise the kid. What do you do when the kid can't sleep? What are you going to do when the kid's sick? What are you going to do when the kid wants to come sleep in your bed? What are you going to do when the kid wants to, whatever? There was no conversation about this because the happiness of just having the kid was the kid's coming finally, And I told him, I said, you need to have this conversation with your wife, these conversations with your wife ahead of time. Whether you read a book, look at YouTube, study it, whatever, the kids are going to, the child will bring the most stress to your life that you've ever seen, that you have no idea and not prepared for. Not just because of lack of sleep, because you guys might have very different ways of wanting to raise this child. And you're going to have to talk that out in advance as much as you can so that you don't run into these problems. And
Wait, you have a regular looking mouth, but somehow it's completely split because you're talking out of both sides of your mouth at the same time in this goddamn conversation. Man, how do you reconcile that? You're saying opposite shit right now. You know that, right? You know that's what you're doing. Okay, I just make sure you know that. Like,
I'm aware, but I'm not. I'm trying to give my words of wisdom to him to say, hey, talk to your wife about how you want to do these things when the kid's ready for this. Because to your point that you were saying earlier, You can try to address some things in advance so that you prevent future problems. And
Okay. All right. So you're agreeing with this? Is you agreeing with me?
This is my thought on this part, because this thing is a little preventable if you
So
talk
you're not
about
saying
it
you agree with me. You're refusing
not
to say you agree with me
100%.
because it
I'm not
sounds like you're saying
I'm
the exact same shit, but you're saying it's not an agreement, which is
depends on
interesting.
the issues. So this is different. This is us against them, which is always parent against child, which is what it's always going to be, and needs to show that you guys are together on this. And I'm going to let you cry out and fall asleep versus I'm going to pick you up every time you cry.
Right.
We're going to be on a team on this matter. But what you're talking about earlier was just relationships, saying I can prevent relationship problems by talking about
See why?
situations in
You see how
advance.
you see how you make it generic, or you make it like this this always thing, when I don't make it always. I said you can prevent some, and if you can prevent one argument for one conversation, that's a good turn. That's a good
I agree.
thing. But if you can prevent 5 of them with one conversation, that's also a good return on your investment, right? So I'm simply saying that having the conversations ahead of time, as opposed to making them all sort of arguments, is a good thing. But here's what I would like. We have not done this before, and that's mainly because we have not released this podcast to the public yet. But when people see this, I need you all to chime in about how Eric talked out of both sides of his ass, out of his mouth, excuse me, same difference, and how he just completely disagreed with his own self. Like, on second thought, could be just Eric. It could be on second thought with Eric Ritchie 1 and Eric Ritchie 2 because they say different shit. They're 5 minutes away from each other. But anyway, and it's okay to say, you know what? I thought about it. I was wrong. You were right, and I'm sorry.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying different perspectives.
I know that's not what you're saying, but I'm saying it's okay to say that
because
you shared it. You shared the same perspective I shared, and then said, but I'm not saying I agree with you with that point. And it's interesting that you would not say you agree with the point when your words are saying you agree with the point. Sometimes it's okay.
I say depend on scenario, right? I did show a different scenario. Relationship conversation versus kid conversation are two different worlds.
They are two different worlds, but the idea of being proactive and having some conversations to avoid future conflict transcends both worlds. You're trying to act like it exists in one world and doesn't exist in the other. I think it transcends.
I know this is what marriage counseling before marriage. I know a lot of religious groups,
that's true. That's true. Facts.
Marriage counseling to talk about these things in advance. Say, how are you going to handle the situation? How are you going to handle that? Because when you're in that mode of I'm getting ready to be married and this is my partner, and then the spiritual leader talks to you and says, "Have you thought about this?" Like, no, I have not thought about that. And they're like, well, obviously I'm going to do this. And then your partner's like, well, no, obviously we're going to do this. And you're like,
and they often know the things that sort of that become those sort of non-negotiables that really become big
because they've seen
issues.
It, right? They've seen those things that enough times that say these become non-negotiables, that this is how you were raised and this is how you were raised. Are you going to find a way to compromise? Or is this going to be the division that's going to end up tearing you apart? That I'm talking to you in 2 years about either marriage counseling or why this is going to dissolve the marriage itself.
And it's better to figure that out now before you get married, rather than
it is. And a lot of people are like, I don't need counseling because we're good. We could talk about anything, and you don't know what you don't know sometimes.
Yeah. So I'm going to do the opposite of what you did. And I'm going to actually agree with something that you said. Because you talked about.
I agree with what you say.
You don't say you agree with it, though. You just agree with it, and then don't say you agree with it. And that is the difference between you and me and my wife, is that y'all won't say y'all. I'm just saying. I would just say it. So I'm going to say I'm agree with you. Anyway, so, but here's what I will say, is that you mentioned before about sort of how you've grown over the years in terms of how you handle conflict. And one thing, I agree with you that ability to sort of be willing to address those conflicts, I think, is a key. Here's what I will tell you. I'm not a marriage counselor, but all the marriages that I've seen that have lasted a long time, or most of them that have lasted a long time, it is because they have figured a way to reasonably resolve conflict, not avoid it, not act like it doesn't exist, but resolve conflict. It's those people who haven't figured out how to resolve conflict that have trouble. And they usually come in one of two flavors from what I've seen. They come in the flavor of we never talk about any conflict, right? We don't talk about it.
Never happened. We
Never
never had
happens.
any
They look
problems.
happy all the
That's it.
time. They
Yeah.
look great.
Yeah.
They're like happy until they're just not together. You're like, what the fuck just happened? Like
Yeah.
they were fine. They were always fine, and then they went from fine to those are the people.
That was me. That was
they don't
me.
resolve
That
conflict.
was one of my. That was one of
Yeah.
my marriages. Yeah.
And then
for
the
sure.
other variety of it is everything is conflict and nothing gets resolved, right? They argue about everything, but they don't actually resolve anything. And so they just rehash the same shit over and over and over and over again, right? And so at some point, you just never grow. You become stale. You end up not liking a person because everything is conflict in the relationship. And so you don't ignore it. You go at it, but you don't actually find a way to resolve it. And so in my mind, the people that don't ignore it, right? They pick their battles, but there are battles to be had. And they find ways to resolve those conflicts amicably. I think are the ones that typically find that seem to last the longest. And I don't know if I don't have any data associated with it. I would just say that what I've seen with my own eyes in terms of people who marriages that haven't lasted, they tend to fall into one of those two categories. And the people that have found a way to resolve conflict and to bring up conflict, to address things, to talk about things, and to resolve conflict in a semi-reasonable way. What that looks like varies greatly, right? I just talked about two ways that me and my wife talked about, right? I'm all in the let's talk that shit out and be very specific, and she's just like, let's just get past it, right? But we've talked about it. To your point that you made earlier, we talked about it though, right? So whether or not it needs some sort of nicely tied bow associated with it, or whether you just move on now because you've now had that discussion and continue to love each other, both of those are reasonable ways I think to go about it. So it can look different ways in terms of what you do after you have those conflict resolution conversations, but they have those conversations, and so I think that's so I agree with you, and I'm happy to hear honestly that you talk about that. Because I think that is going to be the key. Now you grew into that and learned about it. But I think if people can hear that, trust that, and try that, I think they may find that they may, if in whatever relationship they're in, they may find there's a way to work it out.
Yeah, because I never understood how you can have an argument and still have feelings on the other side of that argument. You know, it was always a tough thing for me. Maybe because I come from parents of divorce, you know, and just realize that why do I want to be in an unhappy situation? If you're unhappy with me, then let's just move on. But there is no real world scenario where there is no conflict and there is no argument. You know, the decision you have to make, or that I had to make, was, can we have a disagreement that you're unhappy with me in some form that I have to own and say, okay, this is not what I intended, this is not what I meant, but I can own.
And normal people just say, and I'm sorry that I did that, but you know.
But you know what's interesting is I can't always say it, I'm sorry, and that's it, because the I'm sorry, but still showing the same actions does not mean you're sorry. And
sure it does. It can. Long term,
women want to see. Women want to see.
Yes,
action.
I'm not suggesting it shouldn't have action. I'm saying that you can say it and intend to change your actions and fail sometimes. It's not the perfection of I make a single mistake once and never make that mistake ever again in my life.
Yes,
that's the only time you're sorry. That's not true.
Some
human
version
beings.
of it. You know, like to your point of, I don't like pepperoni on my pizza, but then she orders you anchovies instead of pepperoni next time, and you're like, damn it, I don't like anchovies either. Well, how did I know you didn't like anchovies? You know, so it's like, so you made the same mistake again. I didn't mean to make the same mistake.
Right.
This is a different version of a similar mistake. That's all.
That's why you have the full food conversation, but that's okay.
Well, I think that's a tough thing. But yesterday I told you we celebrated our 1 year anniversary, and we went to dinner, and the waiter says, "Do you have any allergies?" And my wife says, "Well, he doesn't eat pork." Okay, cool. So then I ordered the chicken parmesan, and in my mind I'm thinking chicken parmesan with pasta and red sauce, but the pasta came out with white sauce. Well, I can't eat that much cream. Even though chicken parmesan has a little bit of cheese, but not a lot.
Right.
But this was all creamy pasta. I go, I'm sorry, this is my bad. I didn't inform you. I don't
My
eat
bad
cream
also
because I
sometimes
usually
can be, I apologize.
I avoid that. I avoid as much cream as possible. But in this case, can I get a little bit of pasta with just the red sauce on it? And he said, absolutely. And the manager came by and said, absolutely, we'll get this taken care of. And I finished my my meal, and the sauce and the pasta never came out. So they comped it, and I'm like, you don't need to comp it. It was my bad. I didn't tell you originally that this is it. I just assumed that this is how it was going to be. And by my assumption, I was wrong in what you brought me out,
Now,
So
why would you have approached a similar situation with the similar amount of humility and accountability if it was your wife?
I do actually. Now
You
that I've
sure?
gotten
Because it doesn't
older.
sound, based on what you
No, no,
said, it
no,
didn't
no, no.
sound like, okay, all right, just checking.
I absolutely do.
So it's my bad, my
Yeah.
fault.
Yeah.
You're nothing, because that didn't sound like what you're saying a second ago. You sound like you don't apologize for nothing. So that's why.
Yeah, no, no. I totally, I apologize a lot. Here's where we differ, is once I apologize, I want you to say, okay, cool, thank you. But instead, what I get is, well, here's why I was upset. I go, I already understand why we're relitigating why you're upset that I already apologized, and why do you need to say it again? And what I found out with my wife is, she needs to say it 2 to 20 times to be sure that it's off of her chest and she's over it. And I could have said, I'm sorry a number of times, but this is how she vents her frustration. And I have to now understand that I don't need to apologize 20 times. I need to listen to her say it 20 times for her to feel better, that she feels that it's soaked into my head, that this is what was frustrating to her. And I'll just sit there and okay, gotcha. Yeah, no, I got absolutely. Yep, nope. No, I got okay. We're relitigating. Okay, gotcha. And because what I did originally, early on in the relationship, was, why do you keep repeating yourself
Right.
when I've already said sorry for this? Like, I said sorry, I'm ready to move on, and you're like, I'm not. This isn't out of my system yet. So I'm like, okay,
So
whatever you need to do to get
can
it out of your system, go
I
for
make
it.
a suggestion? One, you're connecting the apology with her relitigating it. And my guess is, if the apology was at all connected with it, then it would address it. But there is something else, and getting it out of her system may be what it's necessary, but there could be something else associated with it. And I would be curious to find out, not for me, but for you to find out, when she feels like she has to keep saying it. I would, if you haven't already asked this, you may have asked it in some way. I would say, clearly, you still feel like I've listened to you. I believe I understand you, but you still feel like there's more for you to say. Can you tell me why you feel like there's more for you to say? And if there's anything that I can do that would help you feel like you have expressed it, or is it devoid of me and it's just about you expressing it? I'd be curious to see if it is completely devoid of you, or if there is something she's looking for that she's not quite getting, that maybe has nothing to do with an apology, that is causing her to do it multiple times. Meaning, maybe she has to do it 20 times, but maybe she can do it 5 times if something else happens on your end. I don't know the answer to that. It just generated a curiosity in my head.
Yeah. So what I have found out was, part of it is a cultural thing.
Okay.
Part of it is, she in the culture where she's from, which is a Latin culture, is the woman doesn't have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
The man controls a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
a lot, and she could never voice her opinion
Mm-hmm.
without complete criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And from what my understanding is, and I'm letting her know that her voice does matter. She's my
Mm-hmm.
partner. We are equals. And this is a new concept for her that she's still grasping right now, which is, we are partners in this relationship. And if you have an opinion or thought, it's important you share it with me, because I will respond accordingly
Right.
based on what your concerns are. But if you don't voice that, and then later you're upset with it, I'm trying to play catch up now.
Right. Right.
There's a show called Modern Family. It's really funny. There's a part where
appreciate you mansplaining one of the most popular recent shows on
A
television.
lot of people, I didn't watch it when it first came out. I'll be honest with you. I only saw it in reruns.
So we're about to talk about Gloria and the
Jay
dude,
and
Jay,
Gloria
yeah,
and
I
Jay,
got you.
and she's and he goes to her and goes, "Are you upset with me?" And she says, "If you did nothing wrong, I'm not upset. But if you did, then I am." And he's like, "Okay, okay, then I didn't do anything wrong, so I think we're good." And then it clips back over to her, and she's like, "I am upset, and I'll tell you why."
That's hilarious.
And I live that. so,
Yes.
so that's a thing where I want my spouse to know that what she says is important, and I
Right.
want her to feel that her opinion matters. And I think in a large part of her life, her opinion didn't matter, and
Right.
and that's problematic that I'm having to work through now.
Right.
But it's important to me to let her know that no, what you say, your ideas, your suggestions, you're a smart woman. I mean, she is a nurse practitioner. She knows a lot of stuff, and I mean, her first language is Spanish, and she has to translate all that in her head to speak English regularly every day. And I'm nothing but impressed with her all the time. But she still has flashbacks to when her voice didn't matter as much. And
Right.
it's something that I have to reassure her with as we build our relationship, you know.
Right.
So that's important that I let her know that what she says does matter, and I do listen. And I think sometimes the preemptive is you're not going to listen, or you haven't listened to what I've said, you know.
Yeah.
So that's part of it, you know. But again, that comes with time. And this year has been a learning year for sure. You know, our first year of marriage, and I think that's what I think that's why paper is the 1 year anniversary, because your relationship is so paper thin that you need to know to do the right thing and figure each other out as you are maneuvering this relationship. And it makes a lot of sense, actually. So so it's been a good year. It's been a learning year, and I think that it's important that it's a learning year for a lot of couples out there that are going through their first years of any relationship, marriage, dating, whatever. It's being willing to listen and take in that information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
So
right,
I think
man.
we went a little bit over, man.
We
Right?
did. Clearly,
Yeah.
it's been a couple of weeks since we were able to connect and
This
talk.
is
So,
true.
so
Yeah.
there's a lot to unpack.
Catch up
But it
on.
was good. It was good. So, as we close out this session of On Second Thought podcast, who are your sponsors, Eric Ritchie?
My sponsor this week has been basically my kids and my wife for supporting all that's been going on with this first week of work for sure.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
On my end, my sponsors are Elevate with Bish Bates. If you want to elevate your leadership game or motivate your employees, reach out to Elevate with Bish Bates. Also, new sponsor that we have is Leadership Mindset Daily. Leadership Mindset Daily. If you want to continue to grow as a leader and to get daily doses of tips and tricks that can help you continue to level up your game as a leader, subscribe to Leadership Mindset Daily on every social media that's out there. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, X, whatever you got. Leadership Mindset Daily. And then I'm also going to be a reasonable human being and also appreciate my wife as well. And I would say that also sponsored by getting the right contact information for your son. Getting the right contact information for your son. If your son was not responding to you in a timely manner and you couldn't figure out why, then when you live with them in a house for 5 days, you figure out why that is and you get the right contact information for your son. Turned out I didn't know you could text iCloud, and that's a thing. So now I know, and now he responds. So I thought he didn't love us. He loved us. He just didn't use the other phone. So so learning about your kids even after 25 years of being a parent, that's what we're also sponsored by. So anyway, so that's what we got, and then also having a wonderful wife. All right, so it's been great talking to you, Eric, man. As always, catching up. And this has been On Second Thought podcast with Eric Ritchie and Bish Bates. Take care, everybody.
You've been listening to On Second Thought with Eric Ritchie and Bish Bates. where it's never too late to rethink, rewind, and revisit the conversation. If you laughed, learned, or had your own on second thought moment, go ahead and subscribe, share, and leave us a review. We want to hear your thoughts, even if you change them later. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at On Second Thought Show and join the conversation. Until next time, keep thinking, keep growing, and don't be afraid to say, you know what? On second thought,